Listen, my dear brothers, has not God chosen those who are poor in the eyes of the world to be rich in faith and to inherit the kingdom he promised those who love him? The value of the mission trip is not the recipients of our gifts and our services over there. The value of the mission trip is for the people who go. In the mornings we would do help build the church, but then at noon we'd go essentially to a recess at the school and just play with kids. And in the afternoons we'd go with the minister and the associate minister, and we'd deliver provisions, which are basically consisted of rice, beans, dried milk, and other very basic essential needs. We'd deliver them to the families. The cool thing about the families, we'd go in, we'd put the provision down, and then they would always say, it was almost like it was rehearsed, but I know it wasn't. They would always stop and they would thank us, and then they'd say, and they'd sincerely thank us, but in reality, the true thanks goes to God. And then they would give thanks to God in our presence. He's the one who's giving the gift here. I asked the kids, if you had one thing you would like to tell them, what would it be? And so they came out. They each had something that they wanted to say. Grace and peace. I love you with the love of God, or God is with you, or with God everything is possible. This is for the fourth one. I think of the rich man and Lazarus. And Lazarus died and went to heaven, so he was all right. It was the rich man who needed something in this relationship. The rich man had more needs than Lazarus had. This whole interaction is about us getting what we need, our spiritual needs met. They have theirs. All they need is their day-to-day physical needs met. And then the Lazarus-rich man relationship, the poor man just needs his physical needs met because he's right with God. It's the rich man that needs the relationship. He has so many needs that he doesn't even realize. So I asked God before we went on a trip. My overarching question was, show me what you're doing in Honduras. What I found was we have to learn to be merciful to the poor. It's one of our top priorities. Love God, love others, but as part of loving others, we need to learn how to be merciful.
I've gone to a few states, but I've never really gone outside of I've never gone outside the United States. I didn't know what to expect, but once I got there, it was better than I expected. That stuff was new to me, but also going into the villages and seeing the poverty. When we went to Houston last year for the mission trip, we didn't see poverty like that. Everywhere you looked, you just saw children walking around with no shoes on. I saw a woman who didn't have any electricity. We saw 16 people living in one house, and a man who had lung cancer or throat cancer. He was lying there on his deathbed. His ribs were sticking out. They couldn't do anything about him, so he was just gonna die there. I've never seen that before. It's different than what you would see in a hospital here. For those people to say that I can see God in you, that's a really big deal to me. And I almost started crying there. They don't know the good things I've done, and they don't know the bad things that I've done. But they knew God sent me there. I didn't know what it took to be a missionary. I call myself a missionary, I guess, now.
The trip was amazing. Right off the bat, God started working in our mission trip, even before we got to Honduras. The night we went to church on Sunday, there was a kid, I believe his name was Marcus. He was mentally retarded. He can't get around on his own, in a wheelchair. And he was sitting out on the porch with his mother, and they live across the street from the church. And I went up and I said hi to him. As I shook his hand, I started to walk away, and then I caught eyes with him. And then I realized he starts doing this. He starts watching all the people walk into the church. And then I looked down, and because they have about a 3 foot high, or not, a brick high wall that goes across their property. He's in a wheelchair. He can't get over that himself. And I turned around, and in the best broken Spanish I could say, I asked his mother and him if he would like to go to church. And he brightened up. And So I got Danilo, who was the preacher's assistant, and me and him walked over, picked him up in his wheelchair, and we rolled him across the street. And he got to go to church, which apparently he hadn't been in a long time. So it was very exciting just to get to see how happy he was. It reminded me of the story of the man who was paralyzed and his friends lowered him down through the roof. I felt like, man, this is just a really cool experience to see an almost Bible-like story take place in real life. It was very cool. Anybody who believes that God is calling them to do something, no matter what their profession, can use some of the talent that they have, no matter what it is, to do good work for someone. I think what the mission committee has done is a great thing. The elders are showing their trust in God to get us there and get us back safely.
I just wish that the people here could have seen how happy they were. They radiated happiness through just our presence being there, because they knew that we had been called by God, so they could see God working through us to go help other people and to help them. The trip was definitely worth it. Before, you had said jokingly, if you don't come back and want to be a missionary, we're not taking you anywhere else or something like that. And I thought, yeah, I'm going to be a missionary. Let me tell you about it. But I really did not want to leave when we were there. I loved it there. And I never thought that I would like it, I was like, okay, well, we'll go a week and then I'll be ready to come home. But I genuinely loved it there, and I want to go back. I definitely want to find another way to go back to Honduras, some other country where I can help. And I feel like the church got me to experience that. It was through their funds, through their love, through their support and prayers that I actually made it there and got to experience this and got to experience something totally new that I ended up, falling in love with. It's definitely something that people need to experience, and I really am very appreciative to the missions committee and to this church for donating their money to let us go on this trip.
There's this girl, she's probably like 8 years old. The whole trip, she just thought we were so mean. All she would yell at us was mala, which is mean. She wanted us to play with her, and I just kept trying to reach out to her, and every day I would try to get a hug from her, and she'd say, Mala, and run away. And then on the last day, she was at the church that we were at, and the whole church over, she was just turning around giving us these mean looks, and then we were walking out, and she just ran out to me, and she gave me this big hug, and she let me take a picture with her, and it was just kind of like, okay, now I feel like I made a difference. Like, you physically see the change in someone's attitude by your actions towards them, and that was neat. I loved this trip. To everyone who sent me on it, thank you so much. Like, my anthem for this trip is God is going to do things that you would not believe even if we told you. So I feel like I could sit here and ramble off about all the great things about the trip, and you can't comprehend it unless you're there. But I can say that it was so worth it. When it comes to mission work, it's always been something that's been in the back of my mind. Like, it's always been something that I've kind of felt called to do in some way, and I still haven't yet realized to what scale that I feel that I'm being called to that. The more experience that I've had with it, the more ties I feel to it, the more called I feel to be involved with something like that. And I'm excited about it. I don't know where it's going to lead me. I don't know where my life's going to take me. But I definitely feel that God is calling my life to go and do His work somewhere.